Hello everyone and welcome to the Souls-like subgenre, which we will be looking a close look today to their history, evolution, definition, and lastly their mechanics. Historical context: the genesis of Souls-like design. The lineage of Souls-like design can be traced back through three pivotal games in From Software's history: Kingsfield, Demon's Souls, and Elden Ring. Kingsfield appeared on the original PlayStation as a first-person dark fantasy dungeon crawler. Though primitive, it established many tonal and mechanical seeds that would later blossom into the Souls-like subgenre. 15 years later, Demon's Souls emerged on PlayStation 3, crystallizing those ideas into a cohesive formula: deliberate combat, cryptic storytelling, and punishing yet rewarding progression. Finally, Elden Ring took that formula and expanded into a vast open world, merging freedom and mystery on an unprecedented scale. Together, these games form a direct evolutionary arc that defines the modern Souls-like experience. Core Souls-like traits and their evolution. In Kingsfield, combat was slow, heavy, and entirely in first person, demanding patience and precise stamina management. The pace was almost glacial, but this weight created an unusual sense of realism and dread. Demon's Souls transformed this into a third-person format, introducing tighter melee systems, clear hit feedback, and stamina-based tactics that forced players to balance offense and defense carefully. By the time of Elden Ring, the combat philosophy had matured into something both familiar and flexible, still deliberate and dangerous, but enriched with expanded animations, weapon arts, jump attacks, and far greater player expression. Death mechanics evolved similarly. Kingsfield punished failure harshly, often with permanent loss of progress, while Demon's Souls introduced the Souls system, a currency that tied experience and money together, dropped upon death but recoverable if the player could return to the site of their demise. Elden Ring maintained this principle with runes, but softened the blow slightly through more generous checkpoints and traversal tools without losing the fundamental tension of risk and reward. Level design also evolved from the claustrophobic labyrinths of Kingsfield to Demon's Souls' semi-linear structure of interconnected worlds branching from the Nexus hub, and finally to Elden Ring's breathtaking open world. The lands between in Elden Ring preserve the intricate, interwoven design ethos of earlier games while offering unprecedented freedom of exploration. Kingsfield. Mechanically, Kingsfield feels primitive today, but almost every modern Souls-like idea is there in embryonic form. Combat was first-person, stamina-based, and slow. Every attack depleted a stamina meter, and attacking without enough stamina left the player vulnerable. Timing and positioning were essential, even then rushing enemies was suicidal. This deliberate pacing gave every encounter a heavy, almost physical rhythm, demanding patience and observation rather than reflex. Exploration was labyrinthine and punishing. Players navigated through dense, maze-like levels filled with secrets, keys, and cryptic clues. There were few clear objectives. Progress required mental mapping and a willingness to experiment. The game world itself functioned as a puzzle, much like later Souls games. Resource management was central. Healing items, magic, and equipment were limited and precious. There were no mid-level checkpoints that could mean losing significant progress, and save points were rare. This built tension organically. The player's inventory, stamina, and memory all became resources to manage simultaneously. Most crucially, Kingsfield introduced the concept of embedded storytelling through environment and item design, rather than narrative exposition, meaning emerged from spatial arrangement and cryptic texts, a mechanical choice that defined From Software's approach to narrative as something discovered through play, not told through dialogue. Demon's Souls. Demon's Souls reimagined these foundations into a cohesive system that felt both brutal and elegant. Its mechanics directly shaped that we now call the Souls-like subgenre. Stamina and combat flow. Combat in Demon's Souls was slow but precise. Every action, attacking, blocking, rolling, even running, consumed stamina. The stamina system created a feedback loop where aggression and defense were inseparable. Attacking recklessly drained stamina, leaving you open, while overly cautious play prevented progress. The result was a tactical rhythm, combat as a form of resource management rather than raw execution. Lock-on and spatial combat. Unlike King's Field's free first-person aiming, Demon's Souls introduced a lock-on system, transforming combat into a dance of spacing and timing. Movement, parrying, and dodging became central mechanics. The lock-on camera emphasized enemy readability, allowing From Software to create combat encounters that felt fair but punishing. Every weapon had unique animations and stamina costs, giving mechanical meaning to weapon choice, not just style. Death and soul retrieval. Perhaps the most defining mechanic was the soul system. Upon death, players dropped all collected souls, the currency used for both leveling and purchasing. If they died again before reclaiming them, the souls were gone forever. This mechanic converted death into tension, transforming even the simplest trek back to a checkpoint into a high-stakes event. It made players weigh every action carefully, turning punishment into a learning tool. Checkpoints and progression. Demon's Souls used archstones as checkpoints, placed far apart to force careful progress. There were no autosaves, no soft resets, only your knowledge and your stamina bar. This deliberate friction made every shortcut unlocked and every boss defeated a meaningful mechanical relief. Online systems. Mechanically, the asynchronous multiplayer elements were revolutionary. Players could leave messages, appear as ghosts, or invade each other's worlds. These sim systems weren't narrative flavor, they directly altered gameplay by adding unpredictability and social tension. Cooperation, invasion, and indirect communication became mechanical expressions of theme, isolation, and fleeting connection in a broken world. Elden Ring. Elden Ring builds on all of these ideas but re-engineers them for an open-world context, a massive mechanical challenge that From Software handled by balancing freedom and constraints. Combat system, tradition with expression. At its core, Elden Ring retains the same stamina-based combat rhythm of Demon's Souls, but layers new mechanics to expand player agency. Players can jump, sneak, dual wield, use horseback combat, and summon spectral allies. Yet despite these options, stamina, positioning, and commitment still define fights. Every animation matters. The Ashes of War system allows for modular weapons arts, special attacks or buffs that can be freely swapped between weapons. This gives mechanical flexibility without sacrificing balance. It's a system that merges experimentation with mastery, echoing From Software's philosophy, freedom but with consequences. Exploration and world structure. Mechanically, the open world of Elden Ring transforms exploration into the primary gameplay loop. Where Demon's Souls used discrete levels, Elden Ring makes the act of exploration itself the test. The map is not the world. Players discover hidden caves, dungeons, and bosses by following visuals or environmental cues, not markers. The classic Souls structure persists in legacy dungeons, which condense level design into intricate, looping spaces reminiscent of Bolteria or Anna Londo. The result is a dual structure, macro explanation of open plains and micro exploration of dense architecture. Both operate on the same mechanical logic, risk, reward, and revelation. Death, checkpoints, and flow. The rune system functions identically to Demon's Souls' soul mechanic, but Elden Ring adds sites of grace and occasional stake checkpoints near bosses. This doesn't trivialize detention, rather it preserves flow in a much larger world. Players still lose runes upon death, but traversal and recovery are smoother, keeping exploration satisfying rather than tedious. This small adjustment shows how From Software fine-tunes mechanics without compromising their core identity. Stealth, mounts, and summons. New systems such as stealth and horseback combat add variety but are carefully constrained. Stealth works best for ambushes, not full avoidance, and mounted combat is powerful but situational. Similarly, Spirit Ash summons introduce tactical support, an evolution of co-op summoning that helps players without removing challenge. Every new mechanic feels like a mechanical translation from software's long-standing philosophy: offer the player more options, not less difficulty. Mechanical continuity across the trilogy. Across King's Field, Demon's Souls, and Elden Ring, the unifying thread is a design philosophy of mechanical honesty, system that teach through consequence, not tutorials. In King's Field, the honesty came from its minimalism, few systems but each essential. Demon's Souls refined this into a balanced web of stamina, death, and exploration loops that rewarded persistence. Elden Ring stretched that web across an entire world, providing that the Souls-like formula could scale infinitely without collapsing under its own complexity. All three use mechanics to evoke emotion, stamina, and combat system create tension, death and recovery loops create fear and relief. Environmental storytelling and limited resources create curiosity and caution. From Software's genius lies in merging mechanical feedback with psychological experience. Every system reinforces the feeling of being small in a vast, indifferent world. In conclusion, the Souls-like subgenre, as seen through King's Field, Demon's Souls, and Elden Ring, is ultimately not about difficulty, it's about meaningful mechanics. Each system exists to make the player feel something: the weight of a sword swing, the cost of a mistake, the awe of discovery, the dread of the unknown. From Software's evolution shows an unwavering commitment to this design philosophy. King's Field created the mechanical foundation of tension and consequence. Demon's Souls transformed those mechanics into a tightly interlocking system. Elden Ring expanded them to a living world without breaking the underlying logic. The result is a subgenre defined not by punishment but by integrity. Every mechanic, no matter how small, speaks to the same core idea: the mastery is earned, not given, and that in struggle lies understanding. And I want to share some extra content about the connections and parallels between Game of Thrones and Elden Ring, since I am also a huge fan of Game of Thrones, and Elden Ring has many subtle and not so subtle parallels to Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, both because George R.R. Martin helped with the world building and because From Software loves mythical political drama. The biggest literal connection is From Software hiring George R.R. Martin. Martin wrote the mythological backstory, including the demigods, the history of Golden Order, and the origins of the lands between. Miyazaki then ruined Martin's mythology by introducing decay, conflict, and tragedy, very similar to how Game of Thrones corrupts noble houses. This is the only officially confirmed direct collaboration between the two universes. The demigods in Elden Ring resemble the great houses of Westeros. Martin created hereditary families of rulers just like House Targaryen, House Lannister, House Stark, except in Elden Ring they are the children of Queen Marika. Many demigods mirror the Game of Thrones style dynamics, like Rhaenyra Carrier family resembles House Targaryen. Rhaenyra has moon magic just like Targaryen blood of the dragon magic, and Rhaenys mirrors Daenerys, a royal daughter rebelling against fate. Radahn resembles Robert Baratheon physically and the Hound characterically. A huge unstoppable warrior who everyone fears, his duel with Melania is like Robert versus Rhaegar, often mythologized. Morg resembling Cersei, Joffrey, and the Faith militant. Obsession with kingship and religious justification for their authority. And there are specific characters in Elden Ring that are clearly echoing Game of Thrones archetypes. Rhaenys the Witch, resembling Daenerys, Arya Stark, and Bran. Rejects her birthright, destroys the order, and creates a new age. Has a cold, mystical, fate-breaking personality like Bran, anti-heroic independence like Arya. Melania, representing Jaime Lannister, and Brienne, Knight Ethos. Both have strict knightly codes, famous for unmatched combat talents and tragic, broken heroic arcs. Godfrey, resembling Ned Stark, and Robert Baratheon. The first Elden Lord, like the Hand of the King, the honorable central warrior, king of old, represents a time when the world was simpler. And I want to thank you for listening and going through the Souls-like subgenre with me through this video.